Okay, so we've got a lot of information that's going to be coming before us.
Yes, there's more steps to this. We have another public hearing that we have to do once this is all over. It was scheduled for last week. That didn't work out, obviously.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ramsey.
No problem.
Thank you, Madam President.
Yes. Mike.
So, Sam, correct me if I'm wrong. This is basically a technical fix that was needed for the grant because there was some language that wasn't quite like it should be. So this is basically a technical fix before the grant is resubmitted, right? And I was also involved in this from the community foundation standpoint, and I don't know the exact numbers, but most of that 400-some thousand dollars came from outside sources. But yeah, this is just a technical fix essentially, right?
Yes, when the Okra reps, if you apply and are not awarded the grant, they come back and kind of have a go over of what you did wrong. And we scored high enough the last time. There was just some wording that was not put together properly in this same resolution we brought forward the last time. So if we had, I guess we'd gone over the resolution a little finer tooth comb the last time, we probably have gotten awarded. We scored higher than one of the two people they awarded it to the last time.
So, Madam, if I may, I'll make a motion. We approve resolution.
Okay, I'll take that motion in just a second. I need to check with Mrs. Faust. Did you have a question?
Thank you. Brad asked the question that I had, so we're on point. I'm looking forward to getting not only the graphic information in addition to the financial specifics regarding the project. Thank you, Sam.
Okay, thank you guys.
Okay,
Madam
now,
President.
any other questions?
Madam President.
Yes, Mr. Batchelor.
Okay, Sam, so what we're doing tonight, we're just doing a resolution, just declaring the area for whatever, whether it's redevelopment or whatever case may be. We are not approving anything else other than just the resolution declaring the area, correct?
Yes, Okra is very strict on how often you can come back and ask for funding from them. So they want to know exactly what area you're trying to fund every time you apply for a grant. That's what this is doing.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, now, Mr. Klein, would you like?
Move to approve resolution 4/2020.
Need a second? Second from Mr. Batchelor. Roll call, please, Mrs. Kylie.
Faust?
Yes.
Fordyce?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Brenner? Batchelor?
Aye.
Luzader?
Aye.
Kane?
Aye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Ramsey. If you want to sign off, that's up to you. You can stay on and whichever.
I'm going to sign off. All you guys have a good week.
All right.
And
Take
stay
care.
safe out there.
Be safe.
Thanks, Sam.
Now I think we're ready for Resolution 5, 2020. Mrs. Kylie.
A resolution authorizing the filing of an application to the Indiana Department of Transportation for a grant under sections 5311 and 5339 of the Federal Transit Act. Speaking, I believe, is Chuck Martindale tonight.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yep.
Thank you. This resolution, like many in the past, is a resolution authorizing the mayor to file an application to the Indiana Department of Transportation for federal and state capital and operating money for fiscal year 2021. Appreciate you doing this tonight. We have a deadline to meet with regard to our grant application. It needs to be in by May 15th. And we still need to do a couple of things with it, but we're in pretty good shape in that regard. But what I would, and I want to note that Jeff Edwards, the Marion Transit Manager, is here this evening if you can't see him. So
We can. Thank
he's-
you, Mr. Edwards, for joining us.
So Jeff's joined me, and if you have any questions with regard to the operating aspects of what Marion Transit is doing right now or beforehand or even hopefully in the future, be sure to ask, and Jeff will be happy to help you there. As I said, the application will be for federal and state funding for local fiscal year 2021. Now, and I want to kind of take you through a chronology here, if I may, because we have, I think, 4 new council members that I haven't had the opportunity to meet, and try to bring them up to date on some of the things that we normally do, as well as what we have to do going forward. There's been a lot of changes in the last 3 weeks with regard to funding because of this Corona Act, the CARES Act. And that's changed the picture for a lot of what we're going to be doing for the next 18 months, not just 2021. So if that pleases the council, I'll go ahead and proceed. Okay. All right. Before the CARES Act was passed on March 27th, the Indiana Department of Transportation notified us that the city of Marion that we'd be getting $665,000 federal money for operating assistance for 2021, and also just shy of $300,000 for state money from the Indiana Public Mass Transportation Fund, PMTF, which now we understand may be in jeopardy. So anyway, we started out late in March with that amount of money, and things have changed as of last week, in fact, a week ago today. As you know, probably on March 23rd, the city pretty much shut down its operations. The Marion Transit System basically shut its downtown terminal down, and they went from our fixed route service plus Americans with Disabilities Act paratransit service to just paratransit service, with 3 priorities on the trips. First priority being medical and pharmacy, second one being grocery, and the third one being work. And now the Marion Transit System has been operating on a completely paratransit basis since March 23rd. And of course, the passengers have plummeted in that regard. Marion Transit, for you new council members, Marion Transit normally carries on any given day around 250 operating days a year, about between 1,050 passengers. And they averaged last year 1,035 per day, 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year, given their, let's say 50 weeks a year, or 51 weeks a year, given their holidays. So anyway, it's there's a lot of usage of the Marion Transit System. So anyway, we at the end of March, we knew we were going to get somewhere in the neighborhood of $957,000, which basically equates to about 62 to 65% of the total operating expenses net of revenues for Marion Transit for 2021. Then comes along the CARES Act, Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, CARES, the acronym CARES. And subsequent to that, in early April, the Federal Transit Administration notifies the state, NDOT, the Office of Transit NDOT, which basically handles all the funds for 41 transit systems, the federal funds for 41 transit systems under the non-urbanized transit part of the FTA funding. In addition to the FTA federal funding, there's a state PMTF, Public Mass Transportation Fund, that's been around since the 70s. And that basically is about $44 million a year that NDOT allocates to all 66 transit systems throughout Indiana. The urban systems, the NICD, the Northern Indiana Commuter Commuter Rail District, excuse me, and then also the rural and non-urban transit systems, the other 40, like Marion, that we get our funding from. That NDOT regulates that, or they get the funding from FTA and they allocate it to all of 51 transit systems. So anyway, we move along. NDOT did an excellent job of communicating with all of us transit systems, what they were working with FTA, because they were kind of in the dark, and everything was moving very quickly. So lo and behold, in early April, we were notified by NDOT to give them an idea of what we need to operate the systems, and also prepare for funding for the Coronavirus Act. Jeff and his team put together, you know, they tried to buy some things. There's a lot of outages to keep the buses really clean and sterilized and all that. And he's still working on that. He can tell you more about it later on. But anyway, and then they come back on April 14th, they being NDOT, and notifies us that Marion has been allocated $2,010,000 in Federal CARES Act for the next 18 months, starting July 1, 2020. NDOT's program to the FTA, Federal Transit Administration, basically said that they wanted to go ahead and maximize the return, the reimbursement to their grantees from this one single pot of money, so to speak, to help them defray all operating expenses to the extent possible. So here we are as of today. We've been notified that Marion will receive the preliminary allocation is $2,010,000 and a few $100s to reimburse the city of Marion for 100% of their net operating costs. Their total operating costs less whatever revenues they bring in. Marion Transit does not charge fares, has not charged fares since the third quarter of 2008. And as we move forward with this, basically what it says, the city of Marion will be reimbursed up to $2,010,000 for all of their operating expenses for July 1 this year to December 31 of 2021. So what we're doing is we're submitting our grant application as like we would for the local fiscal year calendar 21, but we're making it for an 18-month period. NDOT's allocation basically took our 2019 net operating expenses and took that times 1.5, and that's where they come up with this $2 million number. So, you know, as far as this goes, we're going to be able to get up to $2 million at least, maybe a little more, based upon our projections and how much money they have to do this project, this one-time project. These CARES monies are only good from July 1, 2020 to December 31, 2021. The state of Indiana has received $48 million, $47.8 million to fund this program for these 41 transit systems. So they have an abundant amount of money. They want us to be expeditious. And I think what it means, expeditious means they want us to get it done and done efficiently. So I guess what we're hearing is, let's get it done, let's get a contract for it, and they're working on that right now, and let's get it spent in the next 18 months, starting July 1. So things are moving very quickly. It's a evolving process. We submit this application by May 15th. This resolution, a copy of that, once it's signed by the mayor and the clerk, will be sent to me in PDF form, and we will upload that into the software program for these grants. And then they hope to get us contracts signed by the mayor by July 1. So the first 6 months of this year will stay on the old funding program and the old procedures. And we'll continue to do that next year, well, third quarter and fourth quarter of this year, and then next year. But under this expansive amount of money that we've been allocated, the state of Indiana has been allocated by the FTA under this $2 trillion stimulus program of the CARES Act. Some of you may recall, I think Mr. Batchelor was on the council back in 2010, 11, 12, when Marion received about $1 million, just shy of $1 million in federal capital funds under the ARRA, the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009. We bought 8 new buses, and now they're gone, and we rehabbed the terminal down on Adams Street. So anyway, this project will apply for federal operating reimbursement for the city up to $2 million and $10,000 plus. It may change between now and July 1 to reimburse the city for 100% of its operating cost net of revenues. About the only revenues we bring in is advertising revenues, which we'll continue to do, of course. So we're also looking to buy 4 new buses. We believe that they're going to be probably cost more because of the new chassis on these new models, and that the city will be responsible for up to 20% of the local match. And these 4 buses will cost Once we put cameras in them, onboard cameras and all that, it'll cost probably around $70,000 a piece. And the city will be probably responsible for. We don't know yet what the federal state, what the state funding will do as far as the local match for it. We've been told that as long as we have them, they'll pay for the entire 20% of it. But the NDOT has told us that they've been cautioned by the state budget agency that those state funds may be reduced or sequestered by the state budget agency because the state revenues will be dropping because of this coronavirus situation with the state. They're not collecting, I don't think, probably many sales tax revenues or income tax revenues and all that right now. So anyway, it's a fluid situation, but we've been told that we'll be allocated a little over $2 million for the next 18 months for 100% of their operating expenses. If you have to answer questions, I can on this this grant program, and then Jeff's here if you have any questions with regard to operations that I can't answer. Thank you.
Hey, do we have any questions? Mr. Brunner,
Question, I guess, for either Tucker or.
can you hear him?
No, I can't hear him.
Okay, I think, just 1 second.
Okay.
Hear me now?
A little better, yes.
Can you hear me now?
I think so, yes.
For you and ladies and gentlemen, you were mentioning about the special criteria we have to have now that people who still haven't used the buses. That was, do you still have a number of people using the buses?
Jim, I'm sorry, I didn't
How
catch it.
many, what's the number of people that we are using the buses? Is it still the same as it's been, or is it increased? Of course,
It's about the same. It's about the same. We've had a couple of routes that have decreased compared to 2019 to compared to 2018, but we're still covering the same number of passengers, basically on an annual basis within a certain tolerance. As I said, a couple of routes have dropped somewhat in 2019 compared to 18, but that may have to do with weather or something like that. They're pretty well consistent. Any other questions?
I think Mr. Cowgill does. But for some reason, he's not, his phone doesn't have the audio connected. There it is. It's starting to connect. Just a minute. It's still saying connecting to audio. Yeah, while we're waiting on that, go ahead. Let me find you.
Jeff, you have anything to add?
Okay, so Mr.
Wait,
Fox,
questions.
Mr. Fordyce has something, a question.
Okay.
Charles and Jeff, I just wanted to say thank you for such a fantastic job that you do and how you get the funding and the federal money to keep the bus system going. It's just phenomenal how you guys just take care of the city and the constituents on their needs and stuff. And for you to come up with this and proceed with this, I just think it's awesome in a time of unprecedented times that we need people like you. I have sat in on budget hearings and your request for over a year before I was even elected. And it's just phenomenal how you guys take care of this system. And I am just really, really so proud that we have two people like this in our transportation system. Thank you very much for all you do.
Thanks very much. Appreciate your comments.
Thank you. Thank
Jeff
you.
and his team do a really good job up there. They really do. And NDOT basically structures this for us. I'm just kind of help out with the administrative part of it. Jeff does the heavy lifting up there. I don't.
Don't let Jeff fool you now.
Mr. Luzader?
Yeah, our regular budget normally is 75% is covered by the federal and the state. Currently, they're going to be picking up 100% of that.
Yeah, normally it's when it first started, it was 75%, 50% federal, 25% state, subject to the maximum allocation and subject to what you spent. But over the years now, our federal funding has been good. It's been going up, but our expenses have outpaced that. And right now, with everything, with our revenues and all that, basically the federal and state money picks up about 63 to 65% of its cost. 50% federal, the remainder is state. Okay, we've also had more systems get into this pot of money. When I first got in this business many years ago, there weren't that many systems that were, shall I say, participating in the overall funding. And then with these Section 50, these 5311 funds, it used to be a different number. That was started in 1979. We've seen a big increase in the amount of transit systems, particularly rural county operations, get into this business. And so it's kind of had this a thinning effect on what is available for everybody else. So right now it's about 65% federal and state. This 100% is the first time I've ever seen this. It's used to be 50% federal, and then the city or the state and the locals had to pick up everything else. And it's morphed into now this situation where it's the first time in the 40-some years that I've been in this business that I've seen federal funds pick up 100%. They'll reimburse, not pick up, but reimburse 100% of the city's operating costs for 18 months. So we need to caution ourselves because we don't know what's going to happen after December 31, 2021. Okay. We've been allocated this money by NDOT has been allocated this money. The state of Indiana has been allocated this money, and NDOT has in turn allocated it and not using their formulas that they use, which are all very, it's very algorithm based, miles, passengers, population and all that. The city's been really good about putting up its fair share of the money because they had to keep the bus system running. So anyway, right now it's 65% for the first 6 months of this year net. And then after that, it's 100%. So that's all I know right now. Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Edwards, did you have anything to add?
Not really. We're just plugging away, taking people to the doctor, pharmacy, work, and the grocery stores, and trying to keep the buses clean, sanitized, and wearing masks, and making sure our passengers have masks on before they get on. I think starting next week, I think we're going to implement taking temperatures. We're waiting on the thermometers to get in and see if we can start taking temperatures of our bus drivers and the passengers that's going to get on. So we're doing everything we can to keep get people where they need to go, but keep them safe.
So Mr. Cowgill's question, because his audio is not working, is, okay, before COVID-19, how many buses ran each day?
6.
Do you have that same amount now?
No, we run up between 3 and 4 right now because everybody that rides is 24-hour call in at least, and so we, the numbers are down. They just get to go to the doctor. It's just limited where they can go, and they're all call in. So the numbers are down, but we don't turn anybody down. So everybody that needs to go somewhere gets there. And dialysis, wherever they need to go, we take care of them.
Mr. Luzader, just a second.
Question.
Yes.
Mr. Edwards, is there any type of protection that we can do for the drivers? I know they've been putting up plexiglass shields around at some of the grocery stores and things, have we thought about doing that in order to keep, and the reason I'm asking is because of one of the gentlemen who was in New York was sneezed on or coughed
Right.
on directly by one of the
Right.
people coming in, and he passed away. Is there any way in which for us to protect our drivers, possibly by putting up some plastic shields between them and the general population coming in through the door?
We already have the plastic in the back behind the driver. We're
Any
getting
way in which
better
to do it on the side?
on the side. We don't have any on the side. We can look into that. We get better every week. You know, we started with the mask and the gloves, and then we started making them wear masks, and now we're going to take their temperature. We only allow a maximum of 2 people on the bus at a time. So, you know, that's something we can look into. But we're trying to get better every week.
And I hate to, I guess, be a Debbie Downer, but how much is it costing us to run a bus for 2 people on it?
Well, it's the same, but we get it done. We allow 2 people on the bus at a time, and the call-ins are when they call in, we get it done. We get to take them anywhere they want to go, the time they want to go. We have 6 buses. We're only using 3 or 4 right now, so we have enough buses for whoever calls. So.
If I may, Mr. Lizetter, the public transportation is one of the essential services that's been deemed essential by the federal government. So it's incumbent on us, if we can, to continue to provide what we can. It's I know it's difficult, but you know, I don't know how these people would get to some of the places that we have to take them to, or Jeff takes them to, drivers, if they didn't have the Marion transit system.
I guess I'm not arguing that point. I'm just trying to look at the bottom line of it. It would seem that it's quite expensive.
It is.
To take 2 people.
It is.
Yeah, but it'll be worse if we take 6 and somebody gets sick.
Oh, well, believe me, I understand.
You know, so we're trying to do, you know, we're right now at this time, we're trying to not have anybody catch the COVID-19. So we're doing the best we can that way and still get people to the where they need to go.
The downtown terminal is closed. Jeff has dispatch personnel in there during normal hours, but no one else can get in. All the buses are at the garage, and then the dispatcher calls the garage, and then Jeff or whoever is there will dispatch the bus from the garage. So we're trying to make it to where there's the least amount of interaction possible between people and, of course, the drivers if we can. But it is an essential service and deemed so by the federal government.
Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Fordyce?
Brad, I think that's what Charles and Jeff were trying to allude to with this new federal funding on the expense that you were talking about, just taking 2 people at this point in time during the COVID, is that, you know, the federal government's going to come in and fund 100% of this, as Charles had alluded to where it was basically our funding with the federal government before this was 62%, and they're going to give us $2,010,000 on this new relief program. So I think during this point in time that if we're only running 3 buses compared to 5 or 6, and we're only taking 2 people, I think with this new funding that we have to get this approved and get it advanced like Charles was talking about, because we've got a limited amount of time. I think that they're going to take care of that extra expense on just the amount of people that we're taking at this point in time during this to get through this. So I understand it, and I understand your point and your question 100%, but I think with the new funding through the federal government, through this stimulus and this package that it's going to alleviate a lot on public transportation on our expense through our budget.
And we take approximately 50 people a day to where they need to go and get them back home, the way we're doing it now. And, you know, we accommodate everybody that calls in. So that's the best we can do and get the job done.
Madam President, this is Mayor Allenbuck. Can you hear me?
I can, thank you.
Can I jump in on this?
You may, please.
Yeah, these are some of the most underserved people on our buses too. So they are some of the most at risk. And by making sure that we keep the numbers down, we are protecting them as best we can at this time. So that's another reason for doing it the way we are. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mrs. Faust?
Don is trying to get your attention.
Minutes.
Go ahead, Mr. Bachelor.
Am I muted?
No, you're not.
Okay. Couple things. I want to thank Mr. Mondale for the work that he's done down through the years and helping us to secure these grants and funding. Because I've been with him now getting toward 20 years. So we appreciate the job that he's done. And Jeff, you've done an excellent job down there at the Transportation Department, because you're fortunate to have some of my great former employees working for you now. So we expect nothing else but excellent service. So Jeff, keep up the good work, man. And heads off to both of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Bachelor. Appreciate that.
Okay, I'm going to unmute everybody. And if we have nothing else, Mrs. Faust?
I just wanted to piggyback off of that thank you and expression of gratitude. My pleasure to interact with you, Charles, Martindale, and Jeff. As always, we appreciate what you do. I'm also grateful to the city of Marion that we can continue this service to our constituents. Kind of like Jess said, you know, there's an opportunity cost in what we're doing here. And I can appreciate, Brad, your concerns, and like Gary, I hear you, but I'm also grateful that we can still serve the underserved in our community. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
May I jump in on this too, Madam President?
Yes, please do.
Yeah, I couldn't be more proud of Jeff Edwards and the work he's done for the city transportation department. He's just changed the whole culture there, and it's been amazing to watch. And I couldn't be more pleased with what he's done with city transportation.
I agree.
Thank you, Mayor.
I guess, Ms. Cain, I guess I should clarify. I'm not downing the program. In fact, every year that I've been on the council, I voted in great support of this. So I'm just wanting to know financials so that we're able to get our heads together during this time. So sorry to ask those questions if it sounded negative, but it was simply to try and find out numbers to move forward.
No, Brad, you sound like Julie Flores, and I appreciate that.
I would say she probably looks 10 times better than I do.
If we have nothing else, I'll take a motion.
Madam President.
Okay, Mr. Cowgill made the motion. Mr. Brunner, second. Mrs. Kiley, roll call, please.
Cowgill? Yes. Faust?
Yes.
Fordyce?
Aye.
Klein?
Yes.
Brunner? Aye. Bachelor?
Aye.
Zazar?
Aye.
Kane?
Aye. Mayor, do you have anything else you want to add tonight before we close?
Thanks very much. Appreciate your help and your approval.
Thank you, Charles.
Jeff?
Thank you, Charles.
Martindale, Mr. Edwards, appreciate it.
Thank you, Martindale.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. For the kind words.
My pleasure.
Stay safe.
Yeah, everybody stay safe.
Okay,
Thank-
Yes,
Mayor?
please.
Can I jump in here, Deb?
Yes, please.
I just want to say to all 9 of you, well, 8 of you, and keep Steve in your prayers. We know what he's going through, but wow, what an unprecedented time. The first Zoom meeting I've ever had with City Council, and I appreciate all your hearts. Brad, we know you're looking at the finances, and I appreciate that. Without that, we can't move forward, so I get it. But no, I just really appreciate your heart and soul for serving us, and wow. I'm not a tech guy, but I'm picking up on it quickly because we have to.
Thank you. Do you have anything else, Mayor, for the city to hear about, or?
I'll let you know this. We're starting the yard waste pickup again, starting Thursday morning. We'll start going out and picking up yard waste. We'll have 1 person in a truck instead of 2 as we usually do. And the citizens of Marion need to know that keep that yard waste in a format that is easy for 1 person to pick up and load into our trucks, and keep your distance from our city employees. They will be wearing masks, but there's a public announcement coming tomorrow to all the news media. But yeah, unprecedented times. Appreciate you guys and your service to our community. We'll get through this together. We really will.
We will. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time figuring out on how to get on Zoom. At this time, I think what we're going to do, Mrs. Kiley, is we will not have the meeting the first week of May.
Hey, Deb.
Unless we have something urgent, Mr. Mayor.
Could you have you or Brad or somebody close us out in prayer? I don't think there's ever been a greater need for prayer than these times right now.
Absolutely, we'll do that. But then we'll meet the 3rd week by Zoom.
The 3rd week of May.
3rd week in May will be a Zoom meeting. Just to protect us all. I don't know if anything will be lifted by then with the governor or not. So we'll just plan on that just in case. And
I'm sorry. So by that if we're going to the 3rd week of May and we're going to do a Zoom with the city council, does that mean that businesses are not going to open?
As of right now, the mayor's executive order is that everything will open May 1st unless he has a need to extend that.
Is that the mayor or the governor?
The governor.
But I also will be weighing in with Dr. Moore with the health department and Bob Jackson with EMA to get their feedback. These are the people that I trust as far as it comes to health issues. I'm not a health expert, so I'll follow their lead.
What we need to be aware of is that we still have cases that are increasing. I know most of them were in a isolated area with the nursing home, but at the same time, those are still increasing. So social distancing is working. It needs to work first before we get back out in the community and this escalates to where it's not controlled, and we put ourselves at risk. So at this point, that's the plan, unless you hear otherwise. I just want to, have something in plan, something prepared, unless we know otherwise. Yes, the 5th is canceled, and then the 19th would be a Zoom, unless you hear otherwise.
So the
Mr.
5th.
I agree with the mayor wholeheartedly. I think we need to close tonight in prayer. If you'll do that, and then I'll take a motion to close in a second.
I would be happy to.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Madam President and Mr. Mayor. Dear Heavenly Father, we do ask that you'll be with our city at this time, that you'll continue to be with us during this treacherous time of this virus. Let us not be antsy and wanting to to move around, but Father, let's tell our constituents, our people, our family members that it's okay to stay home. And it's nice to enjoy the family time in which we can spend together. We do want to ask that you're going to be with each and every family that's here in our city, that we're going to keep them safe, that they're not going to be congregating and going to places where the possibility of this virus can take effect and continue to spread. We're going to continue to ask that your hand be upon our mayor, our medical, our first responders. I don't believe that there's ever been a time that our frontline workers have been working harder or been put to the test any more than what they have during this time, God. And during this time, they're going to need you to be their comfort, to be their strength, to be their guiding light as we forge through this terrible situation we're in. And we're going to hope that the sun's going to rise and that things are going to continue to get better. And we're going to continue to keep our eyes upon you and ask for your guidance and your grace, because that's really what we're going to be seeking, is your wisdom and your guidance and your grace as we move forward. And so please give us the courage to take those tough stands. I do want to thank our mayor for standing strong with this and going along with our governor. I pray for our governor that he is taking those strong steps to keep everyone safe. And we want to continue to listen to the medical professionals. God be with our first responders, our police and our fire, who will continue to put their lives on the line every day for us. Our frontline workers at the grocery stores, we want to lift them up, and we want to ask that you're going to give an extra ounce of blessing to them for the work in which they're doing. We will give you praise and lift you up. In the precious name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
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 Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A motion to adjourn?
I make the motion to adjourn.
Mr. Fordyce and Mr. Klein. I'll let you decide who. Okay. All right. Roll call, Mrs. Kylie.
Cowgill. Rouse.
Yes.
Fordyce.
Aye.
Klein.
Yes.
Runner.
Aye.
Bachelor.
Aye.
Luzado.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye. God bless everybody. Stay safe. Make smart decisions. Be careful. Take care of your family, your loved ones. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
See ya.
Thanks, Deb.
See you, Mike, Jess.
Y'all be good.
All right, we're ending.
Yes.